Hello. Today we are talking about a novel. This is called Tender is the Flesh, and I wanted to talk about it because I read this and I read it within 2 days because it's very entertaining read. It is a very emotional read. It is a very heart-wrenching read. So I do recommend it to my horror lovers, but I will also say, do you wanna? We have a visit from Boo Bear. Anyways, what was I saying? I'm talking quietly because my fiance, um, we just got engaged this week. Very exciting. But he is sleeping, so I'm going to try to talk quiet. But this book made me very angry in the best of ways. So we're going to talk about it today. I have a iced mocha. I have been obsessed with making these at home because I actually like it better than any coffee shop I get them at. Because my go-to is a shit ton of ice, a little bit of almond milk, espresso, and then a little bit of chocolate syrup, dark chocolate specifically. Because I do not like very sweet coffee, and like this is perfect. It's pretty bitter and strong coffee, which is amazing for me, but it's not like the acidic coffee. The almond milk I get is like the barista blend, so works great. The almond milk I get is the Califia Farms. I think that's how it's pronounced. They have a they have like a label on it how to pronounce it, and I just realized the other day that I've been pronouncing it very wrong. Um but anyways, it's pretty low calorie and your girl is counting her calories. So no more going out to coffee shops for me right now. I am making a healthier decision to have like a half a cup of almond milk in my coffee, which is only like 35 calories and not like it is 35 calories. So, uh, yes, we're calorie counting. My chocolate syrup, I do about 2 tablespoons, and I think that's exactly the serving size, if I'm remembering correctly, on the bottle for the one I get. Oh, are you ready to get down? Oh, you want to go on my desk? She's going on my desk. Okay. You better behave. Don't drink my coffee. Mine. Anyways, loves, let's talk about this book. I didn't even say, this book was originally written, I believe in Spanish, because the writer is Agustina Bazterrica. Bazterrica. I think that's how it's. Don't judge me. But yes, I believe it was originally written in Spanish, so this is the uh English translation. I honestly I should have looked it up, but I don't know if she wrote it in English or if she had a like publisher write it. Oh yes, she did. It says translated from Spanish by Sarah Moses. So, there we go. Um and I will say like the writing is very good. So I was quite impressed by that because you never know, like especially translations are not always they don't always come across the same way, but I think they did a good job with this. So, no complaints there. Um, yeah, it was a very, very interesting read. And I will say, I got this book because I've been hearing about it a lot on different YouTubers and stuff have been mentioning it within like the horror sphere, and also the political sphere, because I think the unfortunate reality is that some of the points in this novel are a little too close to home with the Jeffrey Epstein shit. The Donald Trump shit. All politician shit. So I think let's get into the plot. And I will explain kind of what I mean by that later on. But yeah, it's one of those books. I talked to my sister about it, and she's like, I mean, that's not something that's really believable. And I'm like, not believable. I mean, yes, this is a dystopian novel. It is a dystopian horror, but I would say it's similar, I guess, in the ways of like Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian show, but there's there's things that are reflecting on current society that I think makes it hit a little too close to home. Recently, I wanted to rewatch Handmaid's Tale, and I couldn't get myself to watch it again because I think I got to season 3 and I did really enjoy the show. I think it's very well made. But it is very, very dark and a little too believable. I think that that's the scary part about it is those dystopian novels where it's like, this isn't too far off from where we could be. And that's, I think, what kind of books I gravitate towards and shows too. The stuff that is actually horrifying because it's a little too believable. Uh, it puts me in my uncomfy feels, but sometimes I like that feeling. That's why I love horror. So let's get into this. This is taking place in a future dystopia in which there was a virus that essentially wiped out all livestock. So no more eating meat, and um I think the saddest part about it to me was all animals are just eradicated, even like house animals, dogs, cats, like all of them were just slaughtered, which that part alone like really got to me because I love animals. We have 6 cats, 3 ferrets, a hamster, and a snake. We love animals. It's like our life. We view them as our children. So, that part of this book to me was really hard and very emotional. And I will say, before I continue on with, the world building, there is a scene that if you are also an animal lover, you might want to skip as I did. I basically started reading it and I was like, no, I'm not reading this. And I just skipped to the next paragraph because essentially the main character finds some dogs and they've just had babies, and this group of teenagers comes and slaughters them, and it's very graphic in the book and very gruesome. It's not like uh they make them suffer and they're like getting pleasure out of that, so it's very disgusting. That was like probably the hardest part of this book for me to read. And again, I did skip over it, but I still I read the first few sentences and I was like, oh no, 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 no. So, back to my story. Essentially, cannibalism is born, or as we might say, it's grown because apparently that's a thing that's already happening. Love that for us. I think that the part that's like a little bit unbelievable to me is the part of like people not willing to just eat plant-based meat. Like I feel like if something like this were to actually happen, we would seek out plant-based alternatives and also just like have like build an industry around like making it as close to meat as possible. And I think that that's like something that I hope that we will do anyways. My fiance is vegetarian. I'm not, but I'm considering it. It's a little bit harder for me because I have a lot of dietary restrictions. And I also gain weight on a lot, like anything. I have to basically eat fruits and vegetables for my diet already, but grilled chicken is like my source of protein because I eat very clean and I don't like frozen processed foods. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of like plant-based stuff is currently, is just like already processed stuff. And if you want to make it at home, you're eating like tofu, and I don't like tofu. I'm sorry. I've tried it so many times. I just don't like it. Um but I'm trying. I am hoping that it's something that is more feasible for me in the future, like that there's more options and maybe less processed, and I will continue learning how to maybe prepare plant-based alternatives that we already have that are a bit more natural, like tofu, and working on making it taste tolerable to me. Because I do feel like, because I love animals so much, like I do feel a sense of guilt for eating meat. Um, all of that to say, I don't quite buy that everyone would turn to cannibalism over eating plant-based alternatives. And essentially, the novel goes into like, well, like a lot of medical journals and like research was released to the public to show that we can't sustain ourselves off of plant-based alternatives, which also is not true. Um, we absolutely can. There's also supplementation. It's definitely possible, and you can live a very healthy life. So that part of it, I just didn't really buy. I think that what uh, the writer was getting at with that, though, was not that it was true, but that's what our government's propaganda was, and not just our government, but kind of worldwide. That's what the propaganda was, oh well, you can't sustain yourself on plant-based alternatives, so we better look another way. I just don't understand though why that is what is pushed. Like, I'm just like, if all animals were eradicated, wouldn't everyone just be forced to like deal with having plant-based foods? And like if you had a choice, especially, you're gonna choose to eat another human being over having, a tofu chicken burger, like, or like some tofu. It's crazy to me that that's where the story goes, and that is the biggest element of what I don't quite buy as realistic. But continuing on, so yes, that's the world it's built on. Essentially, all slaughterhouses that previously slaughtered cows, chickens, pigs are transitioned to processing humans. And it's a very horrific thing to read about. And I think even reading about it opened my eyes a bit to even the process that we put animals through. Because I think, it's sad that it took this to like really make me think about it. But um, the writer goes into very grim details about the slaughter process, and just thinking about like, oh, these are human beings. And then I'm questioning myself of like, why do I view human beings as any more important than animals? Like, they're not. I love my animals. So I think it really got my brain going there. So great novel. I love anything that really like makes me have to think about it afterwards, and I think that's why I'm talking about this, because it is a novel that is very thought-provoking, and I love that. Um so Yes, all slaughterhouses are changed to slaughtering humans. And the process is very, very sad. Essentially, they have human beings being raised in captivity. They're never taught how to talk, read, anything. Kind of seemingly like how we treated slaves. Oh, fucking horrible. And in this, they literally cut their tongues out so that they can't even scream or uh, try to make sounds or talk. So it's and I think trying to think. I think it's their tongues and their vocal cords they rip out. Um, so yeah, they literally can't make any sound, can't do anything. Very horrific. The book kind of goes into how the people that are working at these plants, there's many times when workers that are supposed to be like on security watch or something will go in and rape the humans being held captive, and it's like that's just, oh god, it's disgusting to think about. um and I think it's sad because, like, again, if this were to be a real situation, I would not be surprised at that level of depravity of people. Men. There's good men too. I'm just saying, y'all have a bad track record. I wouldn't be engaged to one if there weren't good ones, but I'm just saying, just saying. So this book follows Marcos, and he has basically been handed down this slaughterhouse from his father, and so it's his job to work with manufacturers and people sort like giving the humans to him. And so like the book is following his day-to-day life and like the operations that he goes through as essentially like owning one of these slaughterhouses, and also the internal struggle that he is going through in the novel, because he is seeing this process, and he explains that he never really wanted this for himself, but it was given to him by his dad, so he doesn't feel that he can walk away from it. The book, I think, is also a bit grim in those details of what's going on day to day, because he comes to work and he has to give essentially like an orientation to these two new guys. I think they're applicants, but he's giving them a show of like, this is what it's going to look like. Can you handle it? And one of the guys that he shows around is like really into watching these people get slaughtered, and it's horrific. And then you have the other guy who it's clear that he just needs money, but it makes him like he's like almost like vomiting while they're walking around because he's like really struggling at the thought of working in that environment and seeing that every day. But so I think it shows that kind of duality of some people still have some morality and see it as this like disgusting practice, but then there's also some people that get some sort of satisfaction out of it, which is gross. I think some of the struggles too that Marcos goes through, I think he's gotten so used to it, but he also has his own thoughts on it of like, yeah, it's kind of wrong, but this is what I have to do. And one of the things that I think I found very like an interesting plot point in this novel was his sister. He has a sister that lives in the city, and he essentially lives in a more rural area. His sister is super overbearing, and she kind of encapsulates what the propaganda has pushed onto people. And like one of the things that she does is she carries around, like anytime she goes outside, and this is a thing that all the people in the city are doing, and it's going outside and having an umbrella on at all times in case the birds come for you, because you could get infected by this virus. Which, like, the main character Marcos is just like, yeah. He just kind of refuses to bow down or like be part of what this propaganda has caused, because I think he, at least, for the most part in the novel, I think that he sees that this virus did not wipe out all animals like we did. They didn't all have to die. They're not all infected and evil. Like that's essentially, I think, like what he thinks about it for the most part. His sister asks him for a they call them what do they call them? Heads, I think, in this novel. The humans in captivity. And she's like, I want a house head. So can you get me one? And he's like disgusted by that, because essentially what she wants is a human to live in her house with her, but wants to keep them in like a refrigerator or something, so that she can slowly take the human apart and eat them like limb by limb, but keep them alive in the process. Absolutely disgusting. And that's like a process that's a social norm in the city, which is just like, it's very clear like his sister is very influenced by social norms and propaganda, and so it's very disturbing. He gets very upset about it. Another part of the novel that I will now get into, another plot point, was him going to a facility where rich people come to essentially hunt these humans. So they like let them out into a field and start shooting them, or like cutting them up however they want to kill them. They like the hunt. It's disgusting. And then they eat them. And there's a scene when Marcos is seated at a table with all of them. One of them it's a client that brings his company a lot of revenue, so he doesn't want to mess it up. And the guy asks him to eat this human, and I think like the scene where I started to see the cracks of Marcos was the scene in which he actually eats this human. He had, a choice to make of, he could have used that moment as an opportunity to just say like fuck off and leave, or participate. This was also the scene where I would say it reminded me a lot of rich politicians and their cannibalism. I felt like the book was giving an exact detailing of what that would look like and what that does look like. Very disgusting. And that part was just where it hit a little too close to home, where I'm like, this is so wrong. And yet, on some level, this is happening. The most disturbing part of that, too, was some of these rich hunters were asking for like pregnant women and babies because they taste better. And like, if you've read anything from the Epstein files, you'll know it's a little too real, and that's so fucking disturbing to think about. But yeah, I think that's where that part of the novel was also very hard for me to read through, because it's like, god damn, this is dark, and it's also not that far off from what could be a reality, and maybe it is, and we just don't really know. I don't know. And I will then get on to the third major plot point in this novel, which kind of ties into to the end. Um, Marcos is married to a woman, and I should know her name, but I don't, and I'm just gonna say a woman. Um, and they had a child together, and their child passed away. Um, so she's been staying with her mother, grieving, and he's just been like left alone to grieve alone. I believe it's from those hunters. That group, I think, is the group that gives him they gift him a gift, a head of his own to keep at his house. And he very much does not want it, but I guess there is really no saying no to it. But he refuses to partake in consuming her. And I guess in the novel there are these like checks that happen where someone will be sent to check in on the head and make sure, are you eating them? Are you doing what you're supposed to with them? Which is, that part also I think was just a little bit unbelievable, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. But yes, essentially they come and check in on her a few times, and he like finds a way to get through it. As the story is unfolding, he grows feelings for her, at least you think, and he has sex with her. Or should I say rapes her? Because that's more of what it was, if we're being honest. I think that that part for me was when I saw the change in his character. I was really disgusted by that scene. Because again, you have a woman that probably has the brain of like a child because she's never been taught anything and kept in captivity. She can't even talk, vocalize anything, she can't scream. And he takes advantage of her, and yeah, he rapes her. It's disturbing. But then she gets pregnant, and so he basically keeps her in captivity in his house. He lets her in his house. He had been keeping her in a barn, and he lets her in his house. They almost seem to have like a relationship happening. Then let's get to the ending, because that's where the next part of this comes in. So if you do not want spoilers on how this ends, you can click off now. Because the ending is the biggest plot twist, but again, there's like moments where you could kind of see him slipping through the cracks a bit. But I did not expect the ending. So let's get into it. Basically, his impregnated slave goes into labor, and he calls his wife because she is a nurse, and he's like, I need you to come, it's an emergency. So she shows up and is like, I'm sorry you got her pregnant. And he's like, yeah, but she's going into labor, so like help her, please. And so this is like the moment where I'm like, oh my god, imagine being a wife and like seeing that your husband has cheated and having to help her give labor. Like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot. And then biggest plot twist, she gives birth, and he takes the baby and kills her, kills the slave that he's been keeping captive and impregnated, murders her, and takes the baby. And his wife is like, why would you do that? We could have kept her around for meat and stuff. And he's like, nah. This is our baby. This is our baby now. It was such a wild plot twist, because you would think, like, because throughout the book, it's like he's having this revelation that everything is that is going on is so immoral and so wrong, and he doesn't want to partake in it. And then we get to the end, and he does the most cruel thing of raping a woman, and then essentially, like, making her feel like she's loved and cared for, and then just completely discarding her as soon as she provides him what he wants, which, parallels a lot of things in our current reality. And I think that ending is like the perfect example of trust no one. And also that at the end of the day, a lot of people will give in to their own selfishness before they will do anything that is going to hinder their own lives or themselves. um which, I think that's it does parallel with a lot of things in our current society of, like, I would say a lot of conservatives are very selfish, and by a lot I mean all of them. um it's a very, like, selfish mindset of, like, if something doesn't affect me, why do I have to, like, care about it or, like, help or do anything? Like, it's that kind of very self-absorbed mindset. And then if something serves you personally, oh, if I get a tax break because I'm rich, why would I give that up? Or why would I help, like, other people that are below me? It's that very self-absorbed mindset. Argue with me all you want. If you disagree with me, you're not going to change my mind on that. I studied politics in college, studied it for quite a while, and I think the consensus, even with people in my own life that I have unfortunately had to deal with, uh, it's just very obvious to me and very clear to me that a lot of conservatism in this country is based upon selfishness and focusing on the wrong things and not caring about the people that are below you. And I think that's, like, a really awful mindset to have, because it's, again, like in this novel, it's the lack of empathy for other people. It's the lack of caring about the person that you're taking advantage of, which, again, we see this in our own society. Our population of people under the poverty line, including myself, is just growing and growing and growing and growing. And then you have these 1% of people that might give to charities sometimes. Some of them just don't. And they just keep getting richer, and it's a disgusting cycle, because it's like that money should be being interchanged with everyone. And that's just my belief. Like, I don't believe that anybody should be homeless or struggling constantly, because from my own experience, being in survival mode constantly is so detrimental to your mental health. And also physical health. Like, you can't take care of yourself when you are trying to just survive. It's very sad to me that that's, like, where we are. But all of that said, I think that this book really got me thinking a lot about all of that, because I'm just like, wow, I think that this twist is not so unbelievable, and I think it's very, it challenges a lot of ideals of, like, even people that fake being nice or caring. And I think it also shows that lack of empathy, where, like, at the end of the day, my life matters more than that person's. And that's, like, the very grim reality for a lot of people. And I think, again, there's a lot of aspects of this dystopian novel that I don't think would be realistic. Like, I don't see this actually happening in real life, but I think there are a lot of elements of it that absolutely could be true or could happen, and possibly are happening. That will uh, be a wrap on my review of this novel. I would honestly say it's a 9 out of 10. Is that a high? That's like kind of high. But I really liked it. I thought it was written quite well. And like it's a pretty quick read. I think it's about 200 pages. So not long. It's a very engaging read. That is the word I'm looking for. It's a very engaging read. I think I'm just docking a point for like some of the like a little too disturbing, and also like some of the aspects that are just kind of unbelievable. But personally, I love dystopian books, love dystopian movies, even the ones that are, you could argue are kind of shit. Like a lot of people hate on Divergent, and that's fair. Still love it. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. I'm gonna do another video soon on another book that I recently read, another horror book. Yeah, let me know if you like these like book reviews. Because I don't just watch movies. I read too on occasion. And I love a good horror book. So let me know what your thoughts are, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.